Pudding just got first place in a Japanese OP17 tournament. This is pretty crazy because in my last video, I was just saying I thought it's finally a real deck. And this might deadass be the first Pudding result we've ever seen in like 5 sets. I don't even know when the deck came out, but in ages. Maybe even this might be the first result ever. So as I mentioned in my last video, being able to play 10 cost mom the fastest while also being able to have 8 cost Katakuri to reset our little attackers is pretty insane. And now we have a result here backing up this concept. This is the tournament tweet here. Ignore the pretty lady. We're here to look at the deck list and the top 4 decks. So let's go ahead and click it. So this is the top 4 Pudding deck list. And if you look on the right here, Purple Yellow Pudding got first place, Kaido got second place, Mihawk got third place, and Mihawk also got fourth place. So actually like a pretty good top 4 lineup. It's not like Pudding won a tournament where all we have is like, you know, like Purple Yellow Robin or something. You know what I mean? Like this is a real tournament. And then this is the result here from the guy who actually won the thing. So this is Hika here. I probably butchered that. But as you see, there was a 6-round Swiss, and then there was a top 8 cut, and he won the entire thing. So they beat 2 Purple Yellow Robins, which I think that deck is fake, but you know, so that's probably the least real part about this win. But aside from that, it beat 3 out of 4 Mihawks, which is very impressive. Beat 1 Blue Yellow Hancock. That's what Blue Yellow Stamp is here. Beat a Purple Kaido and also beat Rock. So actually very impressive lineup. And even the deck list here is very, very cool. I'm gonna give you all my thoughts on it, but these are some of the changes I even made at the end of my last video, right? Like I added in the 2 cost Katakuris and I added in the 7 cost Pudding, so it's really cool to see this deck list also using that here. Let's go ahead and look at the list on OPTCG Sim. All right, so this is the first place deck list here, and it's actually has some key differences from my list in the last video. So if you looked at my last video, I actually played 12 searchers, and I was talking about how, like, you know, I want hyper consistency. I want to be able to see my ramp card on curve. I want to be able to see Katakuri on curve and Linlin on curve. But they took a different approach here. So instead of 12 searchers, they play only 8 searchers. And then they play 4 trigger 2Ks, which this kind of makes sense, right? This is a way to kind of fit more triggers into the deck. They're actually playing less triggers than I was. They were playing only 12. And honestly, I kind of like this concept. Like, yes, the trigger bodies are nice, but like, I feel like you only need 1 trigger max anyways, and like just the consistency with like drawing 2 cards, being reset off a Katakuri, I think it is a lot better than relying on trigger bodies. And then there's just other cards that we have to include, like 2 cost Katakuri I think is a really good addition. Borsalino, I mentioned in the comment section of my last video, is also a really good addition. So yes, having a lot of trigger bodies would be nice, but I think it does actually make, you know, a lot of sense to reduce these trigger bodies in favor of cards that have like guaranteed value, right? Like if all of these were trigger bodies, but our main deck doesn't actually do anything, then it's like, you know, what are we even doing, right? Like sure, they become AK attackers, but they become really easy to attack into. Like if we have all these trigger bodies, if we have like no Pudding, no Katakuri, no 2 cost Katakuri, the deck may fall a little short. So I actually like this concept from him here. And having 8 searches instead of 12, and adding like 4 more trigger bodies is actually pretty clever as well. That's something I would like to experiment with. I think I even said in my last video, I would consider going down to like 10 searchers and then adding in some of the searcher 2K. So I actually think this makes a bit of sense. As for the trigger bodies they chose here, so there were a lot of options in OP17, which I'll go ahead and show y'all here. But the ones they chose was Katakuri. This Katakuri just heals on curve. So you'll notice they're not playing the ramp Katakuri. I was personally playing the ramp Katakuri, but I think there is an argument to just do this Katakuri instead. First of all, this Katakuri is a trigger, but it also heals on play. Even though it's not a 7K body and it doesn't get us to 10 cost mom, I noticed that a lot of the times, I actually prefer to play Katakuri before I even play the 10 cost mom. So I actually think it makes a decent amount of sense. Like you can play this Katakuri on curve, heal. You can play like Pudding into Katakuri. You can swing 5 with this Katakuri, then you can restand it off of the 8 cost Katakuri, if that makes sense. So I do think there is, you know, good reason here to maybe consider playing this Katakuri that heals us a card rather than, you know, just playing this ramp Katakuri here. So I actually do kind of like that. That's something I'll experiment with. Sweep 3 Generals is another trigger body here. As I mentioned in my last video, this is by far the best trigger in the deck. This card is absolutely insane. Being able to give minus 3K to 2 different units. You also draw a card and heal. It's just way too much value all packaged into 1 card. So these are the main trigger bodies here. And the other trigger body they had was just basically this one here, which is just 2K, right? And you'll notice that all of the trigger bodies from OP17, they don't actually do anything on play. So they're basically just placeholders for, you know, Lin to turn them into AK attackers. So it's not like we have spectacular triggers here. Their main value is that Lin gets to turn them into an AK attacker in the future, which that does have a lot of value. So maybe we should be playing more trigger bodies. But as I said, I do think like having the pudding and the categories are very reliable. I do kind of like what I did in my list, where I played like 3 of each of these, and then I added in like a bit more trigger bodies just to increase that trigger chance. I'm sure we'll figure out an ideal trigger amount, you know, as we keep on testing the deck. I'm thinking maybe like 16 or a little bit more, something like that is probably ideal, but I'm not entirely sure yet. As for the rest of the deck, it's fairly standard for a pudding deck. So we have the ACOS category here. This is going to be one of the best features of this pudding deck. Being able to reset our attackers is nice, because if you look at Lin, they only become 8,000 power on our turn. When it goes back to their turn, it becomes 4,000. So being able to have category here to restand this is very strong. And on top of that, 2-cost category, being able to play out 8-cost category is actually incredible. And we can actually combine this with Sweet 3 Generals, where we spend 8 Dawn, we give -3k to 2 of their units. Maybe we go ahead and clear 2 units. Then we do 2-cost category into 8-cost boom. So now we just drew 1, heal 1, we killed 2 bodies, and we established an 8k blocker that restands our board every turn. So pretty insane combo. Pudding here, I'll elaborate on this a little bit more. I think Pudding is just a very, very strong card to play on curve. We get 1 more card than if we just played category by itself naturally, and this card gets to restand for category every single turn. Is this card an AK attacker? No, it's not an AK attacker, but we don't need our entire board to be AK attackers. Just having a 5k attacker that resends is very, very nice, and it's immediate, right? Like regardless of if we've seen Lin yet or whether we played Lin, we get to attack with this pudding card immediately. So I think it's very strong. Like we draw an extra card, we also have an extra unit on the board, and it does apply a decent amount of pressure. Then they play Borsalinos. As I mentioned in my YouTube comment section, my last video, Borsalino is a card I wanted to add. I'm not entirely sure whether I will actually end up playing 4 copies or not. I might play a little less, that way I can, you know, fit in some more triggers. But I do think Borsalino, it's just the strongest yellow card, right? Like, it was kind of crazy I wasn't playing it in the last list. Honestly, I had basically just forgotten about it. This card basically defends 2 attacks, right? Like, you get the life and it's a blocker. It's just too insane of a card to not include in, you know, pretty much any yellow deck for the time being, until yellow gets something new that's just way too broken. And then this new pudding here is also very, very strong. I also mentioned this in my last video. This card is just insane, man. Being able to trash the trigger, draw 3 cards. It's like a true, what do they call this? A +3? Or I don't know. It's either a +3 or +2. Anyways, it's a lot of cards. You just play this card, you discard a card, draw 3. You're like, whoa, like my hand just expanded. So this card is very, very nice. And then Nora Beam is also a little unorthodox. I don't think pudding decks traditionally play this. Even back in the day, they didn't play it. I wasn't playing it. But I do think Nora Beam, it's a very strong card. I think it has some legs here. It just gives us extra survivability, right? Like, we're not playing any cards that actually clear our opponent's board. Like, I'm not really even, so far, I don't believe I'm a fan of 10-cost purple Lin in this deck. I think I would rather be more aggressive. So being able to just stick to a more aggressive game plan and having Nora Beam being able to like invalidate one of our opponent's units for the turn rather than us clearing it is very, very nice. So I think Nora Beam is an interesting addition to this deck, and it should maybe stay in the deck for the future. I can see this card having like a lot of potential. So I do really like this new list here from our first place champion. Off the top of my head, for things I want to consider changing, I do kind of, a part of me wants to like try to reduce these. It might be a little greedy to reduce these, but like I think just being able to increase the triggers by just a little bit might be nice. Like let's say maybe we reduce those cards and then we add in, let's say where's it at, there's a trigger body that's like Borsalino that I wanted to add. Maybe we could add in like some of this, right? We could add in some more of this. We even have more like 3-down plays to play on curve. Or we could even consider the Perosporo as well. Perosporo, as I mentioned in my last video, is still a card I'm quite iffy on. It seems kind of promising to play along like after a 10-cost mom turn, but honestly it just seems a lot better to just play like Sweet 3 Generals or play Katakuri and then use Katakuri to play another blocker category. So I actually think Perosporo definitely likely won't be added to the deck, but if there was another trigger body I would add to the deck, I do think it would be the Charlotte Cracker here. Obviously it's not quite as strong as Borsalino, because Borsalino just straight up just heals one, but just having another card that heals while also being a trigger body is nice. And even though it's not a blocker like Borsellino, it has value against Borsellino in a different way where it'll become an AK attacker in the future. So I think that has merit itself. But yeah, that's it for this first place pudding list. Huge congrats to that guy for getting first place. He beat a lot of real decks, beat Mihawk, Kaido, Rocks. Very, very impressive. I'm excited to see how we continue to evolve and expand this pudding deck. As I said in my last video, the list has not been solved yet. Even though this guy got first place, it's still the start of the format. We still have stuff to work on. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know. And with that being said, I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.